the word heal comes from an Old English word hail, which is spelled like H-A-E-L, which we don't see anymore. But that word hail survives as the word H-A-L-E, which now we helpfully use when we order soup, and that's the only time we ever use it. Like, please no salt, I want my soup hail, and that's the only time. But the history of the term hail is that it became the root for the word holy and the root for the word health. So hail, the Old English, becomes whole, becomes holy, becomes health. It's the same thing. And when I see people that are in dis-ease or in unhealth or broken in some way, they tend to be closed. They tend to be fractured. And they tend to be on the whole. And so the work then is to remind them of the wholeness and help knit it together. And there's a variety of ways to do that, some of which I'm sure that you guys know better than me. The three elements are represented in the world, the sky, the earth, and humanity, but also within the self. There's the spiritual part of you, which is suffused and dispersed. And then there's the heart and the mind, which is a little bit more substantive, but still kind of hard to put your finger on. And then there's the body, which is easy to put your finger on, but it's hard for it to go anywhere else. It's very much earth. It's very much here. And so the practice that we do is to remember to reunite these three facets and to see that the center, the heart-mind, is the bridge between the spirit and the earth. The heart-mind is the bridge. It is what makes whole and holy. Holy spelled two ways. It makes whole the disparate elements of the selves. And in fact, I often like to talk about it in terms of, we're actually just reminding ourselves that we are whole. Very rarely is somebody actually broken. They respond as though they're broken, and they act from a fractured place. But they are broken, right? They think their heart is broken, but they've actually just armored it and hidden it and closed it off. And if they can open up the armor around the heart, they can feel that the heart itself goes unwounded. The soul goes unwounded. It's the body that can be wounded, we know, at this age. I know. The rest of me is unwoundable, but I can react as though it's wounded, and I can close it off, and I can forget that it's a part of a larger whole. And then I appear wounded, and I act injured, and I believe myself to be. Right? So this act of bridging, remembering, reuniting the parts, is actually a part of coming back to wholeness or health or holy. It's all the same thing. And it's with the function of that bridge, which is what we can think of a church as being, a bridge between the two worlds, maybe we could say. It's the work of the heart and the mind that makes that bridge and allows the spirit to enter the body, allows the body to connect to spirit. Usually in the class I would say any questions at this point, but I have the microphone, so we'll just assume you all love that. You understood it perfectly. So I'd like to show you a bit of movement that we do that helps to connect these two ideas in terms of reminding, recovering, reinforcing, reasserting, restoring the wholeness. So, if you have a little bit of space to your side, or you're sitting next to your sister, then get closer so you can give a little whack. You can blame me. I made you do it. So the practice for us is not to just sit and think spiritually, or to just move the body for its own sake, but it's to move the body in expression of spirit, in seeking of spirit. It's to move the mind in seeking the heart. It's to move the heart to explore the body. So it isn't like you picture somebody with a crossword puzzle. They're just using the brain. That's all they're doing. The body's very still. So for us, it's about to move the body in order to enhance our recognition, our bridging, our wholeness with the spirit and the other elements. So much of what we do involves movement, but it's not just exercise for the sake of movement. It's about the meaning behind that movement, so that's what I'll teach you a little bit about. So the motion we're going to do is just like this. Now I know most of you don't know this hand position, so I'll teach you a little bit about it as we go. And the idea here is that my palms are receiving from the sky, or from God, or from heaven, or whatever your word is for that place up there. And then my palms find each other, and then they return to the heart and the mind. Right? And often, I'm not sure where my microphone is, often it actually touches the breastbone here. And if you want to do, especially if you're a kid, this is where you get to make some noise. If you hum, you can even finish and say, amen. You can feel the breastbone vibrate there. So we can start to feel that connection of movement in the body as we let the sound ah come out. Right? It's not a mistake that the sound ah is present. Right? It's in ma, it's in pa, it's in amen, it's in God, even though it's spelled with an O. Right? The ah is the sound of creation. Right? And if we think about the sound of creation, when we think about the letter A starts here, and then it comes down to earth. But it starts as one, and it becomes two, which is kind of where all the problems are. Right? My body's here, and I'm feeling guilty about that, and my brain is here, but I'm feeling anxious about that. That's me being in two different places. Right? Of course, there is a bridge in the A, right at the level of the heart-mind, the level of humanity. But that A, that sound ah, is the sound of creation in every language. Right? So, we'll extend, bring the palms together. And if you'd like, you can let it just rest gently here. Here. So the lesson with this is that there's always two things, right? And what I teach, we call it the yin-yang, right? There's the left and the right, the boy and the girl, the mountain and the valley, the drought and the flood, the sun and the shade, the peanut butter and the jelly, all of the old official philosophical terms. And what I'm doing is I'm starting with that connection of the two, and I'm reuniting them at the heart. And the only place that we can resolve what we think to be two is at the human heart. And so I'm bringing this together at the level of the heart. Right? And of course, for an exercise, I'll do this pretty big, and I'll stand up, but you can certainly do it a little bit smaller. Right? And this practice is done by all peoples in all cultures at every time that we've studied. And it's done with an eye towards the future, it's done with an eye towards the present, it's an eye with an eye towards the past. And so, somebody may do this in greeting, like you'll see in the Far East, you'll see namaste as a greeting, that's in this sending our energy. And also, thanks for those brownies. I still don't see brownies. But anyway, thank you for the brownies. I know that you're bringing emotion. So, this, you can call whatever you want. I'll call it different things in different classes. Right? In India, they call it Hrdanjali Mudra. And it's the sealing of the heart. Right? So that's kind of the idea there. But everybody recognizes this. And I've traveled all over the world teaching. Everybody does this. Some people do it when they address their ancestors, some of them when they say good morning, some of them after a meal, some of them just in prayer. You see it all kinds of different ways. So since I have the microphone, I'm going to make you hear a poem. Because you probably can't say no. So this is a poem that a friend of mine sent me a picture, and it was just a picture from a hike in the woods. And he had just seen a log fall across a stream. And it wasn't the kind of stream you could just get yourself across. And he said, so what do you have to say about this? He's kind of joking, but he wanted me to write a lesson or something about it. Anyway, I'm telling you that it has to do with this picture because that way if you don't like it, you can blame them. So I mentioned that a church, both the congregation and the structure can represent that bridge, that functional wholeness between God and man, between body and spirit, between sky and earth, between the insubstantive and the substantive, however you like to look at it, between the yin and the yang. But a tree represents the same thing. Right? The tree is this image. It's not the egg. It's this line that connects pretty well, better than even giraffes. It reaches the sky better, and it doesn't stop at the ground like everything else I've met. It goes down. So the tree really kind of represents this idealized reaching or bridging or connecting. And so when he had this picture of the tree kind of not, it's an injured tree, it's fallen, it's no longer doing this thing. This is what I wrote. And then I'll leave. We know that trees reach, ignoring the substance of earth and seeking the damp and the light, the wet on the way, to the light on some far side, a far side with promise of light when all here is dark. All moments are rooted within themselves, and in themselves they find reach. Past shadows, the understory of reach, following slants and slivers of shine, first charcoal, now jades, following gold to the promise of blue. Reach, reach, each moment, reach, each moment of life, to skies seen above, to skies believed below. But did you know a fallen fraser, a felled fig, a downed dogwood, a horizontal horse chestnut may reach all the same, like long dead ancestors whose stories and myths are told over cut split spark wood late at night, carrying stories, wisdom, laughter, lessons, and their meanings teach you, and their meanings reach you, beyond death, from another shore. For a good reach can outlast death, can outfox time, can outdo death. So too the timber will each have our winter, whose roots kiss the air, whose saps sapped, whose leaves have lost sight of the light, continues its sacred reach. If you look across the gap to the distant shore, you may yet see the teachings of trees, uprooted and rotting. The teachings of trees so muted, so not spring. There, over the burble, retired from reaching, but still she is teaching. The value of reaching, becoming a bridge that we might reach, tiptoeing on beach, to the far and long promised beach. So, thank you all very much. Thank you for having me.
idea of an introduction that would fall in line with what Steve is teaching us, and that's Namaste. In the church that I was serving prior to this one, we often use Namaste during the flu season because it kept us from having to shake hands. So it's another alternative to shaking hands. Namaste, as I understand it, Steve, is the spirit in me recognizes the spirit or sees the spirit in you. Is that a loose?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, so my spirit sees your spirit. And when you say Namaste back to me, you're saying, and my spirit sees you as well. It's a wonderful way of greeting each other in a very authentic manner. Namaste. So, may the peace of Christ be with you. And let us exchange with each other a sign of Christ's peace.